Atlantic article just out titled "Trump's Next Coup Has Already Begun" reports GOP state operatives are stripping power from local officials and are, quote, fine-tuning a legal argument that purports to allow state legislators to override the choice of the voters. Still with us for this important segment are David Plouffe and Tim Miller. Tim, for all the existential reasons, Democrats' attentions were toward Republicans trying to monkey with the casting of votes, but the efforts to monkey with the counting of the votes, that is what can turn elections on their ear.
No doubt about that, Brian. Electoral Count Act. The Democrats, as they move past, look, there's a lot on their plate. And the Republicans are standing in the way of everything. So I have nothing but sympathy. But, in addition to BBB, in addition to the pandemic, they have to move to the Electoral Count Act next year. And Barton Gellman's Atlantic article should be just another wake-up call in a long line of them. I think we first wrote about this back in June, and it is an extremely out-of-date law. And the way that we count ballots, count votes, count electoral votes in this country, the wording is literally from another century, and it is not precise. It leaves a lot of room for troublemakers. And there are a lot of troublemakers on the Republican side right now that are going to look for any possible way to succeed where they failed in 2020. The alarm across the Democratic caucus in the Senate and the House should be high, and it's something they really are going to have to deal with next year.
David Plouffe, you have called the article, as Tim just did, essential reading. What do the Democrats do? What can they do? And time is of the essence.
I think, Brian, every American citizen needs to read it. I wouldn't read it at night because you're not going to be able to sleep. So it is just essential that the Electoral College reform gets passed. I think Democrats can also pass some things to make sure it is as easy to vote as it should be. But the most important thing here is that state legislators can't steal the election. And so BBB, whether it passes in December or January or February, that is the remaining big piece of legislation. And Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema and any other Democrat who's got concerns about the filibuster now has ample opportunity to go to a microphone and say, I didn't want to do a carve out for the filibuster for anything. But it's pretty clear, and I think this is one problem for not just Democrats, Republicans, citizens. They don't believe the Republicans will go this far. And I think the mistake is not to take them seriously. They're laying out exactly what they intend to do, which is to gain power and never relinquish it. And by the way, it's not worth building roads and bridges and child care tax credits in an autocracy. This has to get done. Or 4 or 5 years from now, it'll be Donald Trump in power. Then he'll hand it off to his son. Then he'll hand it off to a grandson. And we are not going to recognize the country. So this has to get done. And so permission structure is always important, Brian. When people in politics have said they're not going to do something, the question is, what is the avenue for them to then say, well, I've changed my mind? And I think pieces like this Gelman piece are what you need, which is they have made it very, very clear that without any action in Congress, they're going to steal the election no matter what happens in 24. And so action has to be taken here. And I agree with Tim. Democrats are dealing with a lot. This is a lot of pressure to put on them. But the notion that somehow we can out-organize or we can basically back them off their intended plot. And listen, when somebody engages in a coup attempt, if you allow them to have a second one, that's the one that succeeds. That's what history shows us.
Yeah.